You're listening to Broncos for Breakfast with Nick Kendell and Scott Kennedy. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Good morning, Broncos country.
They're like 3 minutes late. We're used to 30 minutes late.
Yeah, I know.
Yep. I'm like, not with me and Nick. Not me and Nick don't like being late.
No, we don't. Yeah, the coffee had to finish brewing, and it's not really Broncos for breakfast if I do not have that caffeine coursing through my veins.
Then it's zombies for breakfast.
Yeah, not about that life. There's too much fun to have, but I need that little bit of a pick me up in the morning. Coffee is. I went through all of college without drinking coffee. I did not discover coffee until I was a little older. Then I was like, man, I was an idiot. What was I doing?
I actually like waiting until I wake up a little bit and then having my coffee. Like if you can wait until like 9 o'clock, because then you get that legit caffeine rush and not just the feed the beast because you're on you're going through withdrawals.
Oh man, the beast needs fed. Well, guys, speaking of the beast being fed, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. Joining in, the first time being a little late, but I see people are usually 3 minutes late with Chad and Zach. They are not the always on time, but that's okay. Well, we're not late. We arrived exactly the time we meant to. But you Broncos for breakfast, guys. Good morning. Good morning. I am Nicholas Kendell along with Scott Kennedy. You can find us on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH and at Scout Kennedy. Guys, also make sure you follow the mothership at Mile High Huddle. If you hear any noises right now, that's my dog scratching himself in the background in his kennel. You can also follow us on. Okay, that's it. It's just Scott. You can follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you're joining us on YouTube, guys, please subscribe, like, and share. That doesn't just go for the Mile High Huddle podcast or any of our shows, but also Scott's channel as well. YouTube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Also, guys, make sure you click the thumbs up. We have people joining us right now. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, like, heart, laugh, react, whatever. Oh, and here is the man. Good morning to you, John. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. And I'm going to drop in the comment section as well Scott's sub, so that way you guys can just click on that and help him, help us, help you. Just click that sub. So Scott, what do you got right now on there?
Nick, we're getting close. I'm at 800, so 200 more, and that page starts monetizing. So with everybody's help on here, some content on there, it's good. I posted a video yesterday of maybe the nastiest offensive lineman I've ever seen come out of high school. So check it out if you haven't already. There's this one play, and he moved it to the front of his highlights, where the kid just goes. He's an offensive tackle. The kid in front of him just goes flat, calls no joy. What does he do? I'm not lying. I mean, he Jimmy Superfly Snukas. You're not old enough to remember him, but he was the first guy to go off the top. The Superfly was the first guy to go off the top of the ring post, and he just splashes him. Boom.
Oh, no.
It's hilarious. So, anyway, good stuff.
Did that other kid that got buried have to retire?
So I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, did they kind of joke about it? But, I mean, I guess he figured he was getting pancaked anyway. You might as well just start in that position. So, good stuff.
Oh, my God. We got Malcolm Brown coming in here saying hello from Homer, Alaska. You're back home, not with his Wildcats and the wild grandchildren, but I'm glad that you are back in your domain there up in Alaska, Malcolm. But hopefully the grandkids are good. Hopefully you had a good time out there. Cam Wirtz is in the house as well. Jeremy Shawn, Mr. Kirk Cousins. I
said we were starting at about 10:03, and I forgot about the different time changes here.
Yeah. Yep. No, we got all the time zones here for Mile High Huddle. Eric's down in Alaska. We got UK, et cetera, et cetera. So Cam's in the house. Good morning to Swink McLeod. Swink, we love you. Jason, hope you're doing well. Good morning to you. Cam Wirtz says morning as well. Mo Ron saying the best MHH show. Well, if a Mo Ron says this is the best show, I'm not sure what's going on. But as Scott says here, thanks, Mo. We're just keep teasing you, but he said, glad you like it. Only get better when there's more real football to talk about. So that's great. George.
I know that guy.
That is him. Yeah, he looks familiar.
Looks like I made some converts with my Superfly Snuka. Superfly Snuka comments. So yeah, we did building the Broncos, and we got a little more working over of some of the late nighters to do. They're skeptics. They're scheduled
okay.
like, what's an Atlanta guy doing here? I'm like, man, we all grew up a fan of somebody, right? Come on now.
See, I actually really like, and this hurts myself, I guess, but I really like the outside perspective because as a scientist and somebody who designs studies and whatnot or helps design studies, any way you can remove bias, that's a good thing. You have more
and third-party validation
analysis.
is always, third-party validation is always good to hear. I know what I'm seeing, but and sometimes we like getting an echo chamber. I've found a couple guys I follow on YouTube for Chelsea because of a player that I just absolutely hated. I'm like, there's got to be more people that hate him, and I went and found them.
We got Albert's in the house today as well. EJ said good morning. Jason over on YouTube. Guys, if you YouTube, once again, subscribe, and share, not just our page, but also Scott's page. You click that link, good times will happen. Albert's in the house. Dave Glassman's in the house. Jason McLeod. Reese, classic, Superfly. There we go, coming in. He knows what you're talking about there. Sereth in the house.
He's at least an 80s kid if he knows Superfly Jimmy Snuka.
Well, good. Bob Skinner in the house. Charlie Beagle in the house. Reese Scott, Victor Rios, Gary Leeds Palmer. Morning, Nick and Scott. Thanks for being here. Big E in the house. Mark Rich. Sereth, man. Okay, awesome. Sereth has been a Twitter follower of mine who is a super, just genuine, nice person, and always enjoy talking with them. So they say morning. First time I get to watch live. Pimped. I think they mean, okay, here we go. Yeah. Pumped, not pimped.
It worked either way. It really did. What? I'm okay with that.
It's a no judgment zone in here, except when it comes to the actual football analysis. We are judging the heck out of them. But in the chat, long as everything's consensual going on, okay, whatever. Yes, let's get to it. I think our topic today is something that Zach Kelberman on his Kelberman Corner show talked about. What would make a top 16 average quarterback play for Drew Lock this season? And for me, a lot of times quarterback play stats, stats can lie, right? It has to go with the eye test as well. It has to have some context. That's a little bit less true in NFL than it is in college, right? Because college is the game is so different, conference to conference, area to area. Case Keenum is the all-time leader in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Doesn't make him a good quarterback in the NFL. I mean, relatively, he's better than me at playing quarterback, but compared to NFL standards, it doesn't make him a good quarterback. But in the NFL, what are you thinking about for Drew Lock? What does he have to do this year to be an average quarterback? What do the stats look like?
Well, we talked right off the top of our heads of, what's the gut feel for this? What would it take to be a 15 guy? And for me, my gut feel was 250 yards per game and then a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. And then reading Erick's article, it was pretty close to that. We actually looked back that last year, there was actually more efficiency. Last year, he went back and averaged the number 16 ranked quarterback for the last 5 years. And it was lower. The quarterback play at that spot was better last year than it was historically. So last year we look at that and the number was almost 3-to-1 on that touchdown interception ratio. But the touchdown interception ratio for me, the big ones, when I'm looking at quarterbacks by numbers, I want to see completion percentage and I want to see TD to INT ratio. I want to know how well are you taking care of the ball and how effective are you in putting it in the end zone and keeping it out of the other hands. To me, those are the most important things that a quarterback can do statistically. Again, we don't know some of the things that could go on that could build up numbers or take away numbers. Oh, we had 3 interceptions game. Did you see the weather? They played it in a hurricane. I don't know why they're throwing the ball at all. So there's anomalies in there that you have to factor for. So he came up with that number that was actually a little less historically than what we saw from last year. But my gut feeling was right on. It was about 250 yards, actually a little less than that over the course of the past 5 years, about 230, and then a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. Now, how close do you think, because I did some research on this one, and I want to have some fun with this one. How close do you think Drew Lock actually is to achieving that type of status?
Statistically speaking, he's pretty far off. He was statistically speaking, again, bottom 3 or 5 quarterback last year. Now I know that there are a lot of valid, I want to emphasize valid, all caps, on valid excuses for Lock last year, struggling like he did, losing Cortland Sutton when Lock is more of a general accuracy thrower versus a precision, throwing honey drops in there thrower. So you lose Cortland Sutton out of the gate. That's going to really, really hurt you. Also using another new offense, a new scheme that's still West Coast in nature, but different points of emphasis from Rich Scangarillo's more Kyle Shanahan West Coast offense to Pat Shurmur's more Andy Reid 11 personnel heavy West Coast offense. So that's something that's important. Learning that new scheme makes it difficult. Also, everybody had to deal with this last year with the Broncos because they were one of the youngest teams, new scheme, et cetera, youngest teams on offense. What happened last year with how you didn't get to meet in person, the limited time, et cetera, those all impacted Locke's stats, but Locke's stats were bad, bottom 3 to 5. And so it'll actually be a pretty big leap for him to go from where he was last year to average. And that's not including, like, people talk about some quarterbacks recently who have made huge turnarounds. And the word would be an anomaly because this typically doesn't happen. But Josh Allen is one. And Ryan Tannehill is another one that I think people don't talk about as much as taking that huge leap forward. He was okay in Miami. It was actually more injury stuff. And he also played wide receiver before quarterback at Texas A&M. So the path is a little different. But it would be difficult to take a big step forward. Doesn't mean it can't happen because there are a lot of factors that would point to Locke being a great positive regression candidate. But I mean, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. It'll be an anomaly.
His his overall QB rating for the year was, let me see what it was, 75.4.
Yeah.
And that's to get up to 93 is a pretty big leap. Now, okay, turn up your hearing aids, everybody, because I'm gonna start cherry picking stats and have a little fun with this because that's what I did yesterday. That's what I did this morning.
Yeah.
When he came back off the COVID list, his last 5 games, he was an 87.5. Not bad. That's not that far off. His last 9 games was a 79. Okay. But a lot of that took away, and everybody's most players are going to have a game like this. But if you take away that one game, that 4 interception game against the Raiders in Las Vegas, where who knows what the factors were for that one game, the last 8 games of the season, decent sample size in a quarterback's first year. If you take that one out, half a season, he was an 89.1. Okay, so he's knocking on the door. So if you can say, okay, yes, and this is a big leap, we can expect this. We can expect him to play at this level. That one game was an anomaly. We can expect that 8 game. That's what we should see out of these 8 games. What would it take to move up from an 89 to a 93 and hit that average? You know what it would take?
What?
2 extra completions per game. That's it. So if we take the last half of the season, what does it take for Drew Lock to be a 93 rated quarterback? 2 completions.
It's easier said than done, though, right? Like that's all you need is.
That's the numbers, right? Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah,
that's it. He was 2 completions per game away, whether it's a drop pass, errant throw, whatever. 2. Of course, 2 ground balls a week will get you in the Hall of Fame in Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
that sneak through. But when we talk about how far away is Drew Lock, if we consider the fact, all the factors coming in, as he got comfortable into the offense, as he started playing better, or, the flip side of this, we can do a debate on this all the way, and I'll take the other side too. As the pressure was off because the season was tanked, as the game started meaning less and less, but as he got more comfortable, Drew Lock was 2 completions away from being a 93. That's not bad. That's not that far off, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. And you know me, I do like my stats. And before I got into the football stats side of thing, I was a pretty big fan of the advanced stats in baseball, WRC plus, ERA plus, et cetera, those adjusted stats, stuff like that, where you're really getting a better picture than the raw data. And football is behind baseball when it comes to advanced analytics. I mean, baseball has a bigger sample size. It's more controlled. The variables are more controlled, pitcher to batter. Like you don't have 11 on 11 where it's way more intermeshed in football. So it's a little bit harder to do football, but there is good data out there. Mm-hmm. And some of my favorites are CPOE and EPA per play. And I actually, a while ago, I'll pull it up right now, pulled up a couple different stats here. So we have Drew Lock's last season with the whole season where he ranked statistically. So this is weeks, all the weeks, minimum 340 stats. And here's Lock down here on the bottom left. You don't want to be there. Then the x-axis is CPOE. The the y-axis is EPA per play, so expected points averaged per play. So just how efficient those guys are at creating explosive plays that do lead to points. And Locke struggled last year. Now you do see him actually having solid air yards, which means he is pushing the ball vertically. And that's something you see with Locke. He's 5 out of 32 here. Maybe you'll see him dial that back to become more efficient in his pass plays, but his completion percentage was the worst in the NFL. His expected completion percentage, which the throws that he is making, that's where he's throwing the ball and what you'd expect based on where it's going, pretty low as well. But then his completion perspective over expected was just really, really, really bad. So that's
I'd
a
like
concern.
you to look at that over the last half of the season.
And I have it right here.
Good,
So
good.
Let's do that.
And like I said, and I forgot. I think Reese was saying that serious cherry picking of stats. I said that to begin with. I know, I know that. But when you're talking about a first year quarterback in a new system with no preseason, if you look at the second half of the season, that's not a tiny sample size. That's a decent sample size that we're talking about. And he was considerably better over the last half of the season than he was in the first half of the season. Now, go ahead. This is your spider graph here.
Yeah. So this is another one, CPOE per play. Locke actually was a little bit better weeks 11 through 17. Now it is important noting that the Broncos or Drew Lock did avoid playing the Saints, which had one of the best defenses in football because he was.
I can't even find Drew Lock.
He is.
There he is. He's in orange.
Yes,
that makes
orange.
Sense. Got him.
The one that says D-Lock right there. His EPA plus CPUE composite, which is just kind of the EPA per play and CPUE combined into one score, he's about average, actually. From weeks 11 to 17, he was average. So 18 out of 32. His completion percentage over expected was still very concerning. It's something that is something I'm not sure exactly how that improves that much because this is something that he was horrible in that stat also in college. He was bad, even his good 5-game sample size, his rookie season, et cetera, et cetera. So he was 28 out of 32 there last year. But you see his air yards drop a little bit, becomes 15 out of 32. And his EPA per play, an area that y-axis Lock. Typically, he's worse on this x-axis, the CPOE, better on the y-axis. Does jump here. It's above that red line, which is great. EPA per play. It is important to note, though, these data, they do not adjust for the opponent. So in a small sample size, if you run up against multiple bad defenses, guess what? Your stats are going to be better. So the Broncos did play easier defenses down the stretch last year. The Raiders,
as you're losing games and you're forced to pass. I went back and looked at I think that was one of the few games the Falcons won last year was over the Broncos. And I went and looked. I'm like, sure enough, Falcons run up a big lead, and the Broncos scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. But one of the few teams that didn't end up coming back and winning that game. They jumped on Carolina, and then Teddy Bridgewater and Carolina had good passing stats in the season. That's one of the things that helped inflated, Matt Ryan. I said the fifth rushing passing attack last year. We couldn't run the ball. So I want to get to Air Mason, saying why didn't Locke take the offseason approach last year? Last year, if you remember where we were at this time, things were very different. There were people setting up Nerf guns with wiffle balls in it to take batting practice because, I live in Georgia, and we were about as open as any place in the world Memorial Day weekend, literally. We were back out and playing sports with our kids in organized games in at the end of May and in June. That was pretty rare. So I'm going to give anybody and everybody a pass for last spring and early summer. What do you think on that, Nick?
Just thinking about early what's going on in the world right now, because we're not supposed to say the word to get flagged by YouTube. But my favorite moment was that priest baptizing that child with a squirt gun. Just God, what a crazy time! This we live in a simulation, folks.
Good Lord! I mean, I won't get into how ridiculous that sounds to me, but whatever.
Air Mason.
So,
thank you very much.
The point is I'm not going to get on anybody for the offseason approach that they had last June, last May. I went I went 5 weeks without getting in an automobile for the first time in my life. And we were fairly open here in Georgia. So, I can understand. My point on this is there's encouraging signs to say that he's not that far away from making that leap to average. Okay. And right now, average would be good. If you can take the negative away from the quarterback play for the Denver Broncos, this is going to be a damn good team. And I think it's something we're expecting, aren't we? I mean, we both had the Broncos with a 5 or 6 game turnaround for the 2021 season. Yeah.
I guess the question is, even an incremental improvement at quarterback play can have a massive difference. I'm working on a formula right now where it ranks a team and per position, and spits out a value. And right now I have the quarterback weight overall for the entire team being 33% of the entire roster. So even if you improve just a little bit, it's going to have a big impact given the weight of the value of the quarterback position. So I don't know if he's going to improve to be that 12 to 18 range. If he does, this Broncos team is going to win at minimum 10 games. At minimum 10 games. But is he going to be, because last year he was bottom 3, bottom 5, is he going to be bottom 10? That would still be a decent improvement, right? That would still be not good. That's the wrong word, but in the right direction and on a rookie contract. That's not bad.
Well, and we were talking, if you look at the numbers that that Eric was putting up, that quarterback rating of a 93, Teddy Bridgewater was a 92.1 last year on a bad team. So let's put that as the bottom.
Yes.
If you can get 95 QB rating from your team, that's a massive jump.
Yep.
And you should. The Broncos should be in that neighborhood this year.
I did want to answer this a little bit more for Air Mason, because this is a good question. I have a little bit of a different take here than you do also. Why didn't Locke have this offseason approach last year? One, I think he's gone through the ringer a little bit. He got beat up last year. He struggled. Maybe a little bit of eye-opening. He's not, even in his press conference interviews and whatnot, he seems more ticked off. He's not this kid anymore. He understands that, and he would be the first to tell you, I know people on here, you're too tough on Locke. Locke would tell you he was bad last year too. He would say that he would need to play better. And that's great. He has some self-realization now. People just totally giving up on him. He should be irritated about that. That's great to hear that he's kind of ticked about that. But why didn't he approach this way last year? I think that he was kind of feeling himself a little bit too much. He had just didn't quite understand the difficulty that was going to happen in this league. Also, last year, everybody was gassing him up, et cetera, including the team. John Elway gave him a path of least resistance to that quarterback position. Jeff Driscoll, Brett Rippon, those are your quarterback competition guys? No. Now you bring in Teddy Bridgewater. You're going to have to earn it. This isn't going to be given to you like it was last year with John Elway as the general manager. So why didn't Locke take this offseason approach last year? To be honest, to be the starting quarterback, he didn't have to. This year, he does. Otherwise, he's not going to be playing.
And there's definitely the we're just happy to be here feeling is now gone. Yes. He's not happy to, it's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Now reality is set in for him, so and good for him. Earlier this week, I mentioned his mentality, the way he has taken this. A lot of guys could take their money. He's going to make more money on one contract than Nick and I will probably make in our whole lives. So he's set, and a lot of them will just kind of take it and be done and fold up and, turn to different things. And he has accepted this challenge. And I think that's a good sign. How that pays off, we'll see, we'll see. But I don't think he's as far away as it seems. I don't.
Yeah.
Want to thank Kyle Wielden again. Says, I agree with Mo Ron. And I just like saying Mo Ron. Best Mile High Huddle show. Kyle, appreciate your support on this and and follow me on YouTube. Every little bit of that helps as I get closer to 1,000. So thank you very much on that. And then and Aaron Mason followed up again by saying his favorite Mile High Huddle show. Keep it up and thank you. Now I've got a data point that, depending on your point of view, could either be positive or negative. As how it gets to Drew Lock. It depends on which way he goes with it. I'm looking at his numbers and I think, okay, he might have been under a little bit of pressure. No. He was sacked the third fewest times. Let me double check that, make sure. Yeah. Any quarterback that had at least 10 starts in the NFL, He was sacked the third fewest in the NFL. So the positive I would take away from that is he needs to be calmer. He needs to calm down. He needs to take his time, take a hit. Because if he's getting that much time and he's getting sacked that few, now I'd like to see pressures also. But, typically if you're getting sacked 50 times, you're getting pressured just as much as that. So my takeaway from that was he needs to either, learn to take a hit, stay a little tougher in the pocket, because if you're getting sacked the third fewest times with the worst accuracy, that's bad. Yeah. That should be correctable. And that should come with confidence and experience and time. So that would be my positive takeaway on that. My negative was that it's like we're giving this time and he still isn't making the throws. My negative take on that would be, well, this just isn't the guy. Yeah. So it'll be up to him. And we're going to find out. We're going to find out this year if he takes that step, because the pieces are in place for him to do that. And for me, like I said, you've got a running game, the 13th best running game in the league. Well, you're protecting your quarterback. Yeah. You've got to be able to then make the throws as an NFL quarterback. So he needs to make that step this year.
And that was an issue with him in college as well. Drew Lock, let's call it as it is. He is excellent at avoiding sacks. That is probably one of the best things you can point to with him. The Broncos 2 years ago, going from Joe Flacco, one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL, a stick in the pocket, might as well just be a tackling dummy back there, to Drew Lock, who doesn't take sacks, but sometimes, and it's crazy to say, obviously you need a little nuance, but like to a fault, right? Like he is bailing on the pocket early. He's not getting through all his progressions. If that first read isn't there, he will tend to get rid of the football or force it somewhere. So you tend to see it's a double-edged sword, because you don't want your quarterback to be too aggressive in the pocket, taking big hits, putting the ball in harm's way with strip sacks, et cetera, et cetera. But sacks are a quarterback stat as much as they are an offensive line stat. And you see guys like Ryan Tannehill takes a lot of sacks, but he could be greedy in the pocket. He's looking for that big play. Deshaun Watson, consistently one of the most sacked quarterbacks. Part of that is the offensive line, but also a lot of it is Deshaun Watson's game. Justin Fields also can be pretty greedy in the pocket, but that's because they're looking to hunt. So while Drew Lock, it is good that he is avoiding sacks. You want to see him, and this was an issue more so in college. I did think he had improved there since college to the NFL, but stepping up in the pocket, buying time instead of just falling backwards, bailing on the pocket, trying to escape. That's something you see from some young quarterbacks, and hopefully you'll continue to see Lock progress there. You don't want to take the sacks. That's not what I'm saying, but you do want him to hang tough. Easy to say from here. And
Jason and Robert are both saying in this stat, Jason, he was pressured the sixth most in the NFL last year. And that's why I said that was one of the things I want to see now. But let's compare that with like Ben Roethlisberger, who is really hard to sack.
Yeah.
He's getting pressured. He's avoiding a sack, and he makes plays. I mean, he's older now, obviously.
Josh Allen would be one.
He's when he was at his best, he was getting pressured, avoiding sacks, and making plays. So again, like I said, Nick and I both like numbers, but then we want to verify. We like statistics, and then we want to know why. If I see something, I want to back it with statistics. So those are good points. And when I started, I said, I'd be interested in how often he's pressured too. So thank you for adding to that.
Yeah, we got Richard coming in from across the pond. Need that coffee going here. With the €2.99 or €2.29 one here. Thank you very much, Richard, saying at Scott, love your stats. At Nick, love Lock more. I try not to love anyone too much unless they were on the team before I was covering them. So I plead the fifth when it comes to Von Miller and Peyton Manning and whatnot. But since then, I've tried to take off the fan hat, put on the analyst hat, because I'm not here to be biased, if at all possible. But those are some good points all around. So I don't know. I think we should definitely – Lock can get there. I think he will get better this year. But I do think that he's going to have to earn it. And I think that that's going to be tough for him. I mean, this team, they went out and got Teddy Bridgewater at the coach's request, right? Like, this is a George Payton guy, but the coach is like, okay, we need to bring somebody in here because just with Lock and what we saw last year isn't good enough. We're going to be fired. That's my understanding, verified from multiple people covering the team in the team. So take that as it is. Doesn't mean Drew Lock won't win the job. I think everybody in there would rather Drew Lock win the job, because you're going more places if Locke can step up and become that guy rather than Teddy Bridgewater where he's at right now, his age, et cetera, et cetera. But he's going to have to earn it, and that can only be a good thing.
Well, and the Teddy Bridgewater move isn't a move to say we're giving up on Locke. It's a short-term insurance policy. So as we said on Tuesday, Teddy Bridgewater is not going to be the starter in 2 years. If he's a starter this year, it's because he was better than Drew Lock. So if Drew Lock is the starter this year, he could be the starter in 2 years. He may win that position and make it his own. But Teddy's there as a fail-safe, and if Teddy's the starter, Denver's going to be in the market for a quarterback. Plain and simple.
Yep, and Teddy also, he had 2 years left on his deal. He renegotiated it, less hit, and now it's 1 year. So, writing's on the wall there. If it's Teddy, it's just it's another Joe Flacco move. It's kind of like even Case Keenum, although you'd hoped he'd be here longer. It's a one-season move, kind of like what you saw with the Washington football team and the Bears this year with Andy Dalton and Ryan Fitzpatrick pre-draft. Obviously, the Bears got Justin Fields, but that changes things. And I wanted to get to one from John coming in here earlier. I flashed it a few times, but the supers kept rolling, and we appreciate the supers guys saying last year, and this is another interesting fact about Drew Lock, he had some of the highest rate of big-time throws in the NFL, and that kind of goes into his air yards per play, pushing the ball vertically, and being a quote-unquote gunslinger. So do you expect him to drop that number back this upcoming season, or do you think it'll be higher, given that Cortland Sutton's coming back, and having a guy like Cortland Sutton down the field can only help your ability to hit big-time throws?
Yeah. What I did for fun was QB rating for NFL and college are different. And the QB rating for college likes to, I say, overvalue yards per attempt. I was like, well, let's see where that one is. It wasn't much better. So I didn't bring it up just now. I didn't bring it up. It wasn't a ton better. He was still, ahead of Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Dwayne Haskins, but behind most everybody else for the course of the year. But again, for me, it was, all I ever ask is out of myself, work, kids I coach, whatever, just always get better. Make sure the line's going the right way. And I think we saw that last year towards the end of the season for one reason or another. Again, maybe the pressure's off. I've seen that in Atlanta when they start 0-7 and finish, with 5-2 at the end of the year. I'm like, yeah, doesn't matter now. Thanks. Just blew your draft position. The pressure comes off. But by that same token, as he gets more comfortable, the pressure will come off of him anyway. How much pressure do you think, Aaron Rodgers felt in his fifth year as a starter? He's like, no, I belong in this league. Yeah. So again, that's about the step for him. That's can he make that step? And obviously, Broncos fans are all hoping that he does. I don't think anybody actively roots against him. They want him to be the guy, and if he's not, he's not. Back to the draft pool, back to the free agent pool.
Yep. Yeah, that's is what it is. And the Broncos, obviously, they looked pretty hard this offseason to see if they could upgrade the quarterback position because what Locke had shown to date had not been good enough, but also the cost of upgrading the quarterback position, it's never matched what they were willing to give. So I appreciate George Paton for that. And you would have also pulled the trigger on Justin Fields, and that is independent of Drew Lock, mostly because we both like Justin Fields as a prospect. But still, there's plenty of hope for Drew Lock becoming a better quarterback. There's a lot of circumstances, and I just have a hard time with it. We're both data guys, and we know the stats can lie if you cherry pick and present them in a certain light. If you dial them down enough, they lose their predictive ability. But with Drew Lock, you have a choice, I guess, when it comes to the stats. You can either throw away everything because last year was such a weird season, an anomaly year, and there are, youngest offense in the NFL, offensive line starting a bunch of new people, another new scheme, obviously the weird offseason, the weird season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, he had another injury last year as well. It's something I feel like we don't talk about enough. He's missed games 2 years in a row due to injury. Okay, those are all factors where your ability to compare with those variables to dial it down, you have a sample size of one, right? Like it's just Drew Lock. Like how can you use any predictive stats based on past performance of other players when you have that many specific variables to dial it down to or thresholds, or you can look at his stats in a vacuum and compare them historically to everything that's happened ever, let's say in the last 10 years, because the game has changed, and compare where his stats are to other players over that time period. And that's not good. So I don't know what to do, because I appreciate that there are a lot of factors last year that make it a rare occurrence for Drew Lock that was going against him, that made it harder for him. But you don't just want to throw away all previous data to not create or not give yourself the most informed decision possible.
Well, since we don't necessarily know, we know what Drew Lock needs to do to step up. I mean, that's it. He's got to step up. And these are the data points that we've talked about to do that. So my question now becomes, how's the team improved? How much has the team improved around him? What were some of the factors on the field? He spent a ton of money on Jawan James, and he's a bust.
Yeah.
So does the right tackle position improve one step, two steps? Is it still a problem based on injuries? I think the running back position should be better, right? Mm-hmm. With the draft coming in and some depth there, the wide receiver position should get better just with Cortland getting healthy. So when I look at it, the question then becomes that right tackle spot. Can everything around the quarterback position take a step up as well this year?
Yeah. That's a good point. A couple other spots that I want to get into there, just independent of Drew Lock, this offense, what gets better? Second year in the system, that should hopefully be better. People, I think we said this Tuesday night, people want to make a lot of excuses for Drew Lock. Well, a lot of those excuses are also valid for Pat Shurmur, right? Pat Shurmur changed the offensive system around Lock as the season went on. Drew Lock's stats getting better. Well, guess what? That correlated with Shurmur changing what he was asking Drew Lock to do. It's chicken or the egg. Both those guys had to kind of feel each other out and see what's working or not, and kind of hopefully work with each other to maximize the offense. And you're learning your team. I mean, as a coach, if y'all have ever coached anything, I don't care if it's at the NFL level down to youth sports, you got to learn your team, and you constantly improve and learn every game what you can ask for them and what you can depend on people. In soccer, the word gets called trust a lot. Do you trust this guy? And that's a blanket for what do you know you're going to get out of them? And like you're saying, I think that helped, as he was learning the team and learning what they could do, learning what their strengths was, can and can't do, that got better as well. So there's a reason why 17-game season, I think I went 12 and I don't know if I went 12 and 5. I have to look it back up. Let's say 11 and 6. I think I went 11 and 6 this year. I think I went 12 and 5 though, Nick. I think I started off. I thought you went 10 and 7.
No, I didn't go 10 and 7 because it was like winning like 7 of the last 9 games. I'm going to say the worst I said was 11 and 6.
Okay. Well, that's I always try to, again, I look at it like the bracket. I got to pick a couple upsets in there. So we got Jay coming in over in Montana. God's country is, I would say, driving through it just once, but beautiful. To Nick, tried telling Chad and Zach, but IDK, man, my opinion is that Lock did not do enough to not draft Fields, but I have to take that up with Peyton. Obviously, there has to be something there beyond the tape with Fields. Not that he is, Paxton Lynch or something like that, but to fall to 11, given his tape and multiple years of tape, high quality tape as well. I don't know. I felt as dumbfounded with Deshaun Watson falling to 12 that season, obviously on the football field. That turned out to be right, but I also felt that dumbfounded with Josh Rosen falling to 10. And that one turned out to be the league knew. Obviously, he still went top 10, but
I can give you the Rosen one was always about, does this guy even like playing football? That was always a question with Rosen. With Watson, was he doesn't have that arm. That, I mean, the similarities with Deshaun Watson are going to be closer to Mac Jones than Justin Fields. When you start comparing quarterbacks, you're going to start all the things that you heard about Deshaun Watson coming out were the same things being said about Mac Jones. Not Trey Lance, not Zach Wilson with these cannon for an arm. It was more about the intangibles, and that gets tougher to pick up that high.
Yeah.
So my fear, and this goes to the Broncos as well, is you don't expect to be drafting in the top 5 again, right?
Yeah.
And the chances, if you needed a quarterback, and I don't think they were ready to give up on Drew Lock, but it's so expensive to get a franchise quarterback in the draft. What scares me to death is pulling a San Francisco 49ers and giving up 3 first-round draft picks for a maybe.
It's an opportunity cost.
As a general manager. Yeah. It really does. And that was one of the reasons why it made sense for when I look at some of these teams that I thought needed a quarterback. You look at the teams, we looked at PFF's quarterback rankings, and there were like 5 teams that were below where they had Justin Fields, for whatever that's worth, that passed on him. I'm like, it's going to be awfully expensive to try and get a guy. There's going to be a lot of teams whose drafts are going to be retroactively graded based on how Justin Fields does.
Yep. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds with the 2022 class, but I'm not nearly as impressed at this point with the arms in next year's class compared to what we saw this past season. But it's what it is. I think if Trey Lance had fallen to 6, I think he'd be a Bronco right now. I really do. But here we are, and I'm really excited about Patrick Surtain. I think he's going to be moved around. I think he's going to be able to play some safety reps, some box reps, some slot reps, some boundary reps. So he's going to be a lot of fun. And also, given what the board is and how win now this coaching staff has to be to keep their jobs, I don't think there was a better player they could have taken to help the coaches in this team right now other than Patrick Surtain. He helps this team in 2021.
That's what we said all along with Surtain is you can play him anywhere. Where's he going to play? Where do you need him? Yes. He's got size. He's got fluidity. He can literally play across any one of 5 spots in a nickel defense. He won't, obviously, but he could. So he's going to see plenty of time, and he's going to be really good for the Denver Broncos. And that's what we said from the beginning. Sorry for the regulars that hear me repeat myself a lot, apologize in advance, but if you're drafting in the top 10, you're either going to get your quarterback of the future or a player you can be really excited about watching.
Yep.
A quarterback of the future prospect. And you should be excited about that. That a new quarterback, a top 10 quarterback, especially one of these guys, always represents hope for the future. That's not a win now move. But It's always like, okay, I see the light at the end of the tunnel now. Or you're going to get a guy that you can be really excited about watching play, and Surtain's going to be one of those guys for the Broncos.
Yeah, he's going to be really good. And the Broncos had a long-term need at cornerback coming up. So best defenses historically, they are so volatile year to year. The top defenses, they tend to regress like an instant because it's so dependent on depth, rookie contracts, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we saw the Broncos defense in 2015 just fall off a cliff really quickly. But the teams that have had some staying power have invested heavily in the depth and the quality of their secondary. So the Broncos did that this offseason. Hopefully there's some staying power with how good the defense is.
And it also seems like you've got a Pro Bowler on there somewhere, one of the 3 levels. It doesn't necessarily have to be, an edge rusher or a defensive tackle. It can be a linebacker, a safety, or a corner. Somewhere you have to have a difference maker. Everybody else that can do their job, some blue-collar guys, and then a few difference makers.
I think Dana Jeremiah has a formula that he uses where you have to have, for a complete roster, you need 2 guys on the defensive front that are difference makers or building blocks for a team. 2 in the front 4 and 3 in the back 7. So Broncos, I think they have that on paper. Now, Von Miller being 33 years old, am I writing him in Sharpie? No, maybe an erasable pen. So it looks like it, but we'll see. I want to get to this one from Mike here. Looks like he's rocking, or his kid here is rocking the A's hat. Let us know what's going on with your A's, Mike. Are they coming up to Portland? I saw Russell Wilson was pretty excited about that option. Hopefully that wouldn't upset you too much. But Drew gets 1 more year to prove his worth, like it or not. Mike, Drew Lock, I don't know if Drew is getting 1 more year. He's going to have to earn it this season. It's not going to be given to him. If Teddy Bridgewater outplays him, Drew's not playing. And I know that's going to make some people upset because they think that Teddy Bridgewater's upside is capped. It kind of mimics Broncos country's discussion surrounding Paxton Lynch versus Trevor Siemian. Like, Trevor Siemian, where are you going with Trevor Siemian? We need to see what we have in Paxton Lynch. That's not 1 for 1, but it does kind of mimic that. But these are coaches that are fighting for their job this year. They cannot have a bottom 3 quarterback again this year and survive. So if Teddy Bridgewater gives them a better chance to win, they're going to play Teddy. It really is that simple.
And wanted to get to Malcolm because, I like these. What are the best and worst picks of the first round? I had a little time to think about it while you were talking, so I can go first.
Yeah, for sure.
I got to go Trey Lance is the worst, honestly.
Oh, man. Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, it's a risky, it's always risky taking a quarterback, to say because he could end up being this or he could end up being that. But for me, not just because of the pick itself, but 3 first-round picks for him. Whew, man, that's tough. I think I think that's a lot. That's not quite 3 second rounders for Sam Darnold bad, because I think, there's a lot more upside for Trey Lance. But you're talking about a guy coming out of North Dakota State who has played very little high-level ball, has played very little at a high level, and you're going to give up 3 first-round picks for this guy? Whew. That's, again, that's what scares me about not taking a quarterback. And then the guy that I really, really, really like is Adelphi Owe with the Baltimore Ravens. There's a reason why the Baltimore Ravens always have defenses that are full of killers. Freaks. It's because they get a 6'5", 6'6", 260-pound guy that runs in the 4.3s and can jump 40 inches in the vertical and has all this athleticism. And it's just make it simple for him. Just put his hand in the ground and say, go get it's 3rd and 12, Adelphi. Go get that guy with the ball. And he's got a chance to really develop and take this superhuman physical ability that he has and become something special. So could end up being a bust. No sacks last year. We're talking about everybody who was, we're talking about a guy that everybody, a combine warrior, so to speak, pro day hero. He's also first team All Big Ten, so we'll see. So I'm gonna go with Adelphi Owe as my favorite pick of the first round, and my least favorite pick, I'm gonna go with Trey Lance, because it was 3 first-round picks.
I just love Trey Lance too much, and if you identify your guy and you go get him, I have a hard time faulting that. But that's the process versus the result. If the result's bad, it carries that much more weight. So I actually have 2 best and 2 worst. 2 of them are just stay put picks, and 2 of them are process picks, because process is key, in my opinion. So for my favorite, just general sitting there letting the board fall to you, draft pick, Greg Newsome, going to the Browns. The Browns are another team that really attacked the secondary this year. Greedy Williams has been injured. He's struggled. Denzel Ward has not played more than 12 games in his entire career. They go out there and get an excellent boundary cornerback who also has some injury concerns, but they're adding another coverage guy. And we saw that Browns team last year. They went pretty close toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs. They have the best offensive line in football, and now they've really attacked that back 7. Myles Garrett, I think, is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's an absolute, just talk about freaks, absolute alien, Myles Garrett. So I really love that pick, them at getting a value position and another cornerback out there that can do a lot of different things. My favorite process pick in the first round, it was the Minnesota Vikings trading back from 14 all the way to 23, picking up a lot of extra capital, as Rick Spielman likes to do, and George Payton we thought might do, but he didn't end up doing. Taking Christian Darrisaw there that's a great pick. He can play gap, he can play zone. They've needed offensive line help for a while. They were able to get a really good tackle while adding extra picks. Fantastic. So those are my 2 favorites. Worst picks, just sitting there letting the board fall to them. Worst pick, I think it was, John said it here. Harris by Pittsburgh. And I like Najee Harris, but that team investing in a running back position seems extremely short-sighted. That offensive line was really bad. They've gotten worse every single year the further Munchak has gotten from them. And they could have used back 7. They could have used offensive line. They could have used a number of positions. They could have used running back. I don't know. That Steelers team, that felt like a short-sighted move. I wouldn't have been a fan of that. And my bad process pick, I like the player, but trading up to go get him, the Jets moving up to 14 to get Elijah Vera Tucker. I really like Elijah Vera Tucker. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a guard in the league. You're giving up that much capital to go get a guard when you could have sat there at where did they end up? They would have been at 23, I think. You could have taken Christian Darrisaw there. You could have taken Tevin Jenkins there. You could have taken Greg Newsome. You could have added another cornerback, edge rusher. The Jets haven't had an edge rusher since Jonathan Abram. That's worth noting. And that's even predating your Jonathan Abram and the Falcons days, I think. So those are the ones that stick out to me.
And I think the easy pick, the one that got panned the most right after, was Alex Leatherwood at 17. I thought Alex Leatherwood was a first-round guy, so I don't necessarily mind the pick. But as a general manager, I think they could have picked up a couple of picks. I think they could have come down a little bit and gotten someone else. But again, if you to the same point, at 17, is it worth risking a third-round pick to not get your guy to come down? So again, but looking at your board with Najee Harris, and I was listening to you say the positions they could have gotten. There wasn't another first round offensive lineman taken after Najee Harris. So
I thought Tevin Jenkins was worth the pick at 17. So I don't know what happened with Tevin. I loved Tevin.
But just looking at the board and how it fell, but then you go to edge, and I'm like, when I think defense, I think Steelers Ravens.
They lost Bud Dupree.
Adopt Owe to the Steelers would have made perfect sense coming out of Penn State too. So that could have been a way they can go. But good question. Thank you. We always like talking draft.
Yeah, it's always fun to put on the hindsight cap there. But Newsome could have been one of the Steelers taking 2 picks later. Could have used edge rusher, obviously. And I was a big fan of Tevin Jenkins. So I don't know what happened. I think there was a hip concern. Also, I think there was an issue with him having a physical altercation with a coach at Oklahoma State. Now, so you never like to hear that.
I like to hear both sides of that one. I've been around some coaches that are lucky they didn't get their ass beat by guys that I watched. So, when I was in high school, we had a coach split his head open, headbutting one of his offensive linemen. So, there's 2 sides to all those stories. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's pivot here for a second, because I actually had a tweet yesterday that I think it's already time to start talking about 2022. And I know that you're not as in the weeds with the Broncos, especially the last 10 minutes here. And if we have any supers, that can dictate us a different direction. But the way this Broncos team is set up right now, they have invested heavily in the secondary. They've invested heavily 2 safety picks. You'd expect one of Jamar Johnson or Caden Stearns to be safety 2 next year. And they'd probably let them sink or swim and pivot from there. You have a lot of depth at interior offensive line. You'd have Javonte Williams, the early investment at running back. You had a lot of wide receivers, assuming I'm not going to assume that Cortland Sutton's back. Obviously, quarterback is one here where we're not sure. If Broncos need quarterback next year, that moves to the top of the list. Let's put that in a box. But for me, Broncos 2022, there are 2 positions that for the first round that people really need to start paying attention to and focusing on, and that is offensive tackle. No duh, we've been screaming about that for a while. Luckily, seems like left tackle has solidified with Garrett Bowles, but that right tackle position, I think left tackle and right tackle are of equivalent value in today's NFL, given how much shotgun there is, how many teams are actually lining up their superior edge rusher over the right tackle spot versus the left tackle spot, especially in the AFC West. That had been the case for a while with Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, and Von Miller, of course. But right tackle, that's an area that needs investment, and edge rusher. We got Jay right here coming in. Edge rusher is the other position. Guys, Von Miller is going to be 33 years old in the last year of his contract. Bradley Chubb had another injury. He's going to become really expensive. And edge rusher is a position where historically it's a bunch of first round guys, and then it's falls off a cliff. There are obviously outliers there, but let's just look at the data. Mostly first round guys. So edge rusher and offensive tackle, 2022 needs outside of quarterback position. Those are the ones to look for. And the Broncos even tried to trade up for an edge rusher in this class to take Jalen Phillips. They missed out, but they were interested.
I'm behind. For the class of 22, I don't even want to start talking about it yet. So I'm listening just like everybody else. And when you're ready to move on, I'm good.
So I'm curious if anybody else has any thoughts as well. I guess some dark horses as well would be the interior defensive line. For this Broncos roster, the way it stacks up, they look okay on paper right now, but it's a few old guys and a guy who's about to get expensive and a complete unknown. So you have Shelby Harris brought back, I think a 2-year deal, 3-year deal. I think it's maybe a 2 years deal that can become 3. So he is one that you're expecting to have here for the next couple of years. But typically, interior defensive linemen take 2 to 3 years anyway to really come into their own. The league is so different, unless you're like a top 5 pick on the interior defensive line. So if you take a first-round pick in 2022, especially one in that 15 to 25 range, that's more about a guy who's going to become a starter by like 2024. So interior defensive line is one. And Mike Purcell, coming off injury, another older player, could be looking there. And Draymond Jones. I think Draymond Jones is going to explode this season. I'm really excited for him. But he's going to have to get paid then after that. So interior defensive line, I think, is my dark horse. And I will not stand it here. Linebacker position. I don't think you have to use a first-round pick on linebacker. Unless there's a guy who's really special. But it's like tight end. There's a bunch of some good guys, but you don't have to use a first-round pick.
And it's got to come back around because the interior defensive line class this year was non-existent. For the most part. So it's all cyclical. We're not going to see 5 quarterbacks in the top 15 again anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So I think it's got to come back around. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. We'll just see who decides to show up for the class 22 with the defensive lineman, because this wasn't a great year for them, which is to me what made Owe an interesting pick because of the upside there.
Yeah. I thought the edge class was better than the interior defensive line class. Had some depth, especially in that like pick 20 to 50 range. But no real true blue chipper. And next year there is a blue chipper edge rusher in Thibodeau in Oregon, who is freaky. Really fun player. So we got Charlie Bigelow coming in here saying, who took Kyle Trask? I believe it was the second round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Might have been the third round pick. Not sure what they're doing there with that pick, but is what it is. That's fine. And we have Jay Roper coming in here saying strong safety for the Broncos is one to look at. And I want people, this is just me hopping on the soapbox real quick. So you listeners are a little bit smarter about the Broncos' needs and scheme. A lot of people have their mind or their perception based on the Wade Phillips defense, where it was much more single cover one, where you'd have a free safety and a strong safety. That's not really the Broncos' defense, guys. They play a lot of split safety. So really, like free safety, strong safety, I guess they're labels, but really both safeties are going to be asked to do a lot of the same things. So don't think about them as the dichotomized position, where it's like the classic example is the Seahawks with Cam Chancellor as the strong safety and Earl Thomas as the free safety. That's not what the Broncos are being asked to do. It's split field defense, cover 4, cover 6. Both safeties are going to do two things. I would even just drop strong safety, free safety. I would just say safety. Kind of like you don't say right cornerback, left cornerback. They're both asked to do similar things. That's true for the Broncos defense as well with this defense.
Yeah, and we wanted to get to Chris. It looks like Chris. I'm guessing that's Christian.
Yes.
Just haven't seen it spelled like that. That's unique to me. So appreciate it. Says, morning guys. Can't wait to see Williams at the field. I think he takes Gordon's job by the end of the season. While we were looking at that, I went and looked up his stats at North Carolina because, we know he can run the ball. But what was interesting to me was how he got trusted in the passing game. Every year, his receptions went from 8 when he was a freshman, 17 to 25, 0, 1, and 3 on touchdowns. So he has been improving. And if you've got a player, when I first started doing this covering high school running backs, I was like, so what were your stats? He's like, I had 100 carries for 2,020 yards, high school guys. So, they have big numbers. I'm like, how about receptions? They're like, no. I'm like, well, hell, he was averaging 18 yards a carry. Why would I throw the ball to him? I just turn and hand it to him. So it's seen as his numbers. He averaged 7.3 yards per rush. He doesn't need to catch the ball too much in college, but they still used him more and more as a weapon. So we know he can break tackles and we know he can catch the ball. So whether he takes Gordon's job, I think it's a point of just debate because they're both going to see a ton of time. You should find 35 carries and whoever's getting, maybe it's 15 and 20 and 15 the next week. I think they're both going to see a lot of time.
Yeah. And thank you very much, Christian. I'm excited to see Williams too. His volume in the pass game was limited. And is that because of Williams? Is that because they had Michael Carter, who is also a little better in the pass game when you actually needed a receiving option out of the backfield? Now, Javonte Williams as a pass blocker, chef kiss. I mean, gorgeous. I'm excited to see some highlights with him back there taking on a linebacker because he can stonewall some dudes. That'll be really fun. And he takes his blocking, it looks like personally, right? Like he's mad. He blocks mad for a running back. I love it. He brings that physicality there and that underappreciated aspect of playing the running back. But as a pass catcher, he looks like he has soft hands. He looks like the routes are fine, but just the volume's not there. And that's probably partially having Michael Carter, probably also that I need to look up this offensive coordinator from North Carolina because he just drives me nuts, pulls my hair out. Watching Sam Howell, it's like, what is this make-believe offense? But I kind of had that issue with Clemson last year too, running a lot of high school concepts. But Christian, good comment here. Is he going to take Gordon's job by the end of the season? Is Gordon holding on to the football? I think that's the biggest thing. But it's the same thing with Drew Lock, but also applies for Melvin Gordon. This team turned the ball over last year like handing out candy on Halloween. You can't do that with how limited this offense has been and being a defensive predicated team. So protect the football. I think Gordon will keep it. But they would love Williams to take Gordon's spot because Williams is going to be the guy of the future, no doubt. We'll see. And Jeremy with a good point here. Williams is super smart as well. Valedictorian. I think he had a 4.6 in college or in high school. So that's great. He's also 21 years old, it's extremely young. He also has like 200, 300 less touches than Travis Etienne and Najee Harris, which I think matters a heck of a lot for a running back coming in. Did you see about this? Maybe this will be news to you. There's a running back recruit who is opting out of his senior year as a running back who's going to go to Texas, which for other positions, offensive line, quarterback, etc., I might have an issue with that. But as a running back, I don't know if it's the worst thing.
It's just the time off from last year gave the college kids the excuse to do what a lot of them should have been doing anyway. Just sitting out their junior years, opting out.
High school kid. It's a high school. He's going to be a high school senior.
I know. So, just going down the line, again, the unholy collusion between the NCAA and NFL is so anti-player and anti-opportunity that you're going to see more and more of this. And if I don't blame him, I don't blame him. He's got a huge future ahead of him. Why should he go get, these guys the high school kids are playing 15 and 16 games now, especially in Texas. They don't get done until Christmas. They play 15 games, 16 games a year. You're going to give him, that's going to be 500 carries for a running back like that. Yep. I don't blame him. I don't. It makes me a little sad for the game itself, but the way that the people with all the money treat the players, it's I see it. And just going back to Javonte Williams on this, I mentioned his touches, his carries. Well, him and Michael Carter last year were 1 carry away difference for touches for the whole season. Isn't that crazy? 157 rushes versus 156 rushes, and they both had 25 receptions. That is splitting the load.
Yeah. No, that's it's a good point. And with the way Williams runs as well, I'm glad that he doesn't have as many carries. And Jay, I got to take not offense to you here, but I got to disagree. Fangio's scheme works better when he has a box safety that can cover and hit. From reviewing Fangio's defenses from the 49ers to the Bears, point to me to the box safety. I do not see it. I don't see that guy out there. He does not really use a dime backer. Now, maybe that's going to change this year. He's talking about using more defensive backs. I honestly think that you're going to see Patrick Surtain as more of the box role defensive back, as the de facto box safety, I guess, other than like a Simmons or a Kareem Jackson. But a lot of times with Fangio's safeties, it's split field look, or it's coming down and playing over the slot. It's not in the box. So from my review of the defenses, he does not use that player. And it's a big reason I didn't think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was a much of a scheme fit, just because historically he has not used that body type. Just hasn't. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. And now we have Jeremy coming in here. Surtain will be the 6th defensive back. We'll see. It's going to be a competition back there. That's a good way let's get out of here with this. I want to hear your opinion here on just how stacked the Broncos defensive backfield is. Throw your hat in the ring. Who are going to be the Broncos starters in the defensive backfield?
It's tough for me. I can't compare them one to the other. What I can tell you is Surtain will be at worst the number 2 guy across the board. So he's going to find his time. Whether he beats out one of the 2 corners, I don't know. But can he play? Can you put him in a spot right now and can he play? Yeah, he can help you. Can he be a nickel guy or move one of your smaller guys to the nickel while he's covering the outside? Yes, you can. Could you even use him in a free safety role, depending on what you want to do? And frankly, the 6 DB is going to get on the field. That's a dime package. So what I do know is Patrick Surtain can help this year and help a lot, and he's versatile enough to help you in a lot of ways that they're going to find a spot for him on the field.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, you have Darby, you have Bryce Callahan, you have Kyle Fuller, you have Michael Ojemudia, who's coming back this year, who, man, pretty good player here. Jay, I'm not going to let it go, man. I got to pull up the stats here. You could see the Broncos, I guess, maybe moving on from Bryce Callahan, who was phenomenal last year, but you have a big usage for him. But yeah, that's the biggest one. So we'll see. I think that Surtain is going to be. He's going to get enough snaps to be the number 3. I would take a little bit of exception. I think you're going to see Ronald Darby with how much they paid him, and Kyle Fuller, given his skins on the wall and his ability in this scheme specifically. We will see him out there. But Surtain, with how much how much 5 and 6 defensive back looks you're going to see with this defense, he's a starter. And what's his role exactly remains to be seen, but he's going to be a starter. So guys, I think that's going to have to do it for us today. Sorry we started 2 minutes late. We'll be better than that next time. We're not following the Chad and Zach plan of action. Also, everyone put out good vibes for Chad. I know that he's a busy guy right now. Not anything's bad, but he's got a lot on his plate with the family life coming on, a new edition coming here soon. So that would be great for him. But guys, follow us on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH for myself and at Scout Kennedy for Scott. And Scott, are you starting to get a little nervous for Saturday?
It's nice when you're a heavy underdog. The nerves really don't start kicking in until you get a 1-0 lead, and then you're like, man, we actually have a chance at this. Then it starts becoming nerve-wracking, and I don't think Chelsea will be in the we're just happy to be here mode, but nobody expects Chelsea to win. So it's hard to get too nervous. I learned that in college. I'm like, there's a certain calm in utter doom. You're nervous about taking a test when you're not sure how well you're going to do. When you know you're going to fail, you're calm.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to it, though. That was the Europa League final yesterday. I know we got a couple Manchester United people on here. It was nuts. It went to penalty shootouts, and they made 21 in a row. 21 penalties in a row before Manchester United's goalie missed one because he was the 11th player on the field to take one. Anyway, there's my 45 seconds of soccer talk, and I will stop it now.
Well, that's I still enjoy it. So thank you, everybody. We got Georgia St. City's winning it all, probably, but we'll see. Great show, guys. Jay coming in saying, I love y'all. Vinny coming in saying, you hear what the Cheater Patriot news? Yeah, man, we live in a simulation. It's weird times out here. Charlie saying, Juwan James Jensen, if you guys make a big enough super chat for Chad in the Huddle Up Pod, he might take consideration there. We got Jason saying, well, gentlemen, as well as Juana, enjoy your day and keep it classy, Broncos country. Mo Ron saying, great show, guys.
Go from Ron Burgundy to Mo Ron. That was awesome.
We got Greg Smith, also great podcast fellows. Greg, we always appreciate you coming in. Malcolm back up in Alaska, so we'll be excited about that. I need to get up to Alaska at some point while I'm up here, so we'll do that. EJ coming in here, great point here. Great show, guys. Smash the like button for the Broncos. Yeah, guys, if you are joining us, Facebook or YouTube, please click the thumbs up. We appreciate that a lot. That does a lot of good for us. Follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod, also at Mile High Huddle. Guys, if you are joining us, like I said, on Facebook, YouTube, click the thumbs up, click the heart react if you're joining us on YouTube, though. Please subscribe, like, and share. That is the number one thing you can do to help us outside of super chats, get this show out there to more listeners. Also, guys, please go to youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Scott is approaching that threshold he needs to get to for subscribers. And if you're liking what's going on here, if you want to support us in a way that really takes no time and effort at all, or no monetary value, etc., like you're not donating, just go to Scott's page and like it. I will also drop the list to subscribe on the chat before we get on out of here as well. And Scott, do you want to give a shout out to our donators today, our super chatters?
Yeah, for sure. We had plenty of supers. Air Mason came in twice. Thank you, Mason. Kyle, as always, I see you in my list of followers on YouTube as well, so thank you for the support. Malcolm, as always, Christian Garris and Richard Beisenkulter. So from across the pond, and if I missed one, I don't think I did. If I did, I apologize. But as always, the super chats are a big help for us to keep this thing going and grow it bigger and better. And we're having a lot of fun doing it. So appreciate all the good words and the support.
Yeah, and also Christian Garas. Did you say that one as well? So that's the
I probably said it
that
so
one right.
Different that you didn't recognize it.
Probably. So, guys, that's going to do it for us. Again, make sure you subscribe to all of our channels, all of that stuff. That's going to do it for Broncos for Breakfast. You all stay safe. You all stay beautiful. Go Broncos.